Kia ora bros and girls, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to do some one-shots of Sunspot. Either one-shots or pretty deep. This guy is all about Incinerate, as we said, and he shrugs off debuff very soon. He's got this oscillate mechanism that goes on. And his whole thing is kind of based around flare states. So he has like 110 solar charges to begin with, and they slowly count down. It's 80 if he's unawakened, but it's 110 if he's not, and they slowly go down. And so long as you have solar charges, you can go into flare state, and flare state has a lot of stuff. However, you can break this with shock. So that's one way of dealing with this guy if you have like shock damage heroes. But a lot of his damage comes from incinerate kind of abilities. So I figured I'm gonna come in with Iceman. I think Iceman's a very good counter. I think any incinerate immune champ is gonna make this a pretty easy fight. I found this quest comparative to the last few months probably a little bit easier than a lot of them, especially this 3.1 boss. If you have an incinerate immune, this guy is really easy. His specials are not that difficult to evade. His heavy is not that difficult to evade. He's pretty easy to read. He doesn't have anything, any nodes that like force you into a certain style of play. Stuff like Bane or Masochism or Debuff. He doesn't have any really annoying nodes. It just ends up being a pretty long fight. The only thing is, as his flare state increases, so as he gets up to 10 charges, his hits can hurt. So you want to be evading this guy if you can and not taking block damage, because he can do a lot of damage. Also, he can get a ton of prowess from his SP2, and then his specials will deal enormous damage, which is a problem if you get hit by the specials. But if you don't get hit by the specials, it really doesn't matter about this guy, right? So he's got like 10 prowess charges there, if he lands that, and for every charge, I think he gets like 200% or 160% increased special damage. So this guy is going to be a beast on attack, but as a defender or as a boss, he's not really that difficult. And as you can see, we're kind of just going through cycling, getting rid of his SP1, getting rid of his SP2, and just putting on the SP. The main thing in this fight with Iceman is that we are making sure to not get hit by the specials, and we're not really going to push him to his SP3, because if I can't tank his SP3, but if I do push him to his SP3, and there's no reason for it, but if I do push him to his SP3, he recharges all those solar charges. Now, I found even if I'm trying to get him to use up all the solar charges, so his flare state goes away and he becomes really weak, just due to the length of this fight, it doesn't really happen. So that's not really a strategy. If you have a shock champ, maybe it's a bit different. Maybe if you have a shock, you can break down the flare states, and I don't know if you break down the flare states whether that takes away his chances to incinerate, but I found Iceman and Void the safest option, because they're incinerate immune and they can just sit here in this fight and thug it out. So there you go, he had an Iceman one shot, and I'm gonna go in with a lower level Void. So this is a rank 3 Void. Basically the equivalent of a maxed 4-star. My maxed 4-star actually has higher sig level, so he does more damage on his Fear of the Void, which is where the bulk of my damage is coming from. But this guy probably has a little bit more health. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, because with Void the strategy is simple, very much like Iceman. Make sure you don't block the damage. And if you're incinerate immune, you can handle just hanging out in the fight. And all you gotta do is evade his heavy, evade his SP1, and evade his SP2. So I'm actually going to do a tape breakdown video next up, which will break down exactly what his heavy is, how to evade it, what his SP1 is, how to evade it, what his SP2 is, how to evade it. But at a quick look, you will notice his heavy, he kind of like does a kick and then he flips over himself. His SP1, he does like one kick, two kick, and then like an Eddie Gordo capoeira kick, and you can kind of back from the first two and go in for the second, and then that's the SP2 right there. He does one punch, two punch, and then he jumps up a little bit like Havoc and tries to land on you. Kind of all his specials, it's all about just being far enough away. So none of them are projectiles, none of them are difficult to evade. This fight is really just about patience and making sure you don't get cornered, making sure you don't get hit, because he will do a lot of damage through block with that flare state and those solo charges. Now you can see there I was almost on full life. I took one hit into a block, and through the block he took away half of my life. So yeah, make sure you don't take that chip damage, because you will not last very long in this fight, even as a rank 3 or a rank 4. So yeah, there are different ways to do this. I found the Incinerate, the Incinerate immune champs are absolutely the best against them. However, I think you can shock your way out of flare state, so someone like Electro or Storm or Nebula, which I haven't tried, but I think Nebula's old trick of 20 electrostatic charges and hit him in SP2 would probably work here. If I get a little bit enthusiastic this month, I might see if I can do that and put up a video up on it. Or you can do burst damage as well. But you will. I have done burst damage with like a combination of Captain Marvel, Corvus Glaive, and Star-Lord. But be absolutely aware that you are going to die within the first like 20-30 seconds. So it's all about outputting as much damage as you can before you die, but you can do it with 2 or 3 champs. Now hopefully this video helped. If it did, like, subscribe, leave a comment. That helps support the channel, helps me bring you more videos like this. And yeah, follow us for the tape breakdowns of both Sunspot and Warlock. Kakite, bros and girls.